have returns. And I got beat going again. And let's try. Well, I guess it's already revealed this worked once. Let's test 2. There you go. So it does remember if you type something in that it's in that array. So we mutated the array. But yeah, so there. That works. So that was one of the things. The other thing I was thinking about, so if we don't have a lot of required stuff here, so let's just like fill in a couple of things here. Let's put in a start date of today. Hardly anything else is required. Let's put in a time like 12:23 a.m. 1:54 p.m. If I save, see some things happened. You can see it saved. It saved these values, and we definitely don't want that. So we have our logging that we enabled as well. We can see the data that was processed. So the data that was taken from those inputs and put in for the start time and end time, not great. So we have start time there, end time there. So it's converting those times into UTC relative to today's date, and I don't want any of that to happen. That's not at all what I want. I want to use a time input, but I don't want to actually save that like that, and I wonder what we can do about that. So let's go find where our time input is, and let's look at. So there's 2. These should be required. For this, but there's 2 things. There's parse and something else. Let's go look at the docs. Let's see. So if we're looking at, so there's parse and format. There we go. So parse takes you pass a callback to parse, and that callback takes the value from the input, which is a string, and returns the value to put into the form state. So we want parse, and we're gonna do something. We're gonna console log value, and we're gonna return probably just an empty string for right now to figure out what we're doing. So that we'll do that with start time. So what should happen is in the front end, if I go back, if I go to create again, because we don't have an edit view yet, and I clear all this old logging, I go to start time, and I say, hey, 12:23. Right. So one thing, it kind of breaks because we're not actually, like, we're returning an empty string. But you can see as I was typing, we're getting values. Back to us. So I think, what do I want to do here? So it looks like we're getting 24-hour clock representations from the front end input. So I think what I want to do is I do want to capture that value, that just what the default implementation of parse is doing on time input is it's turning it into like a date object, and then turning it into some ISO 8601 representation. So we don't want that. So if I do this, how does the component behave? Right, so 12:34 a.m. that seems to work. Like we don't need to implement the other side of that. The parse and format. Format is the other side. So that takes whatever is in the kind of the internal state and turns it back into something that can be rendered. So it looks like we can get away with just this identity function for parse, and that will do what we want, which is great. So I can just do that for this as well. Okay. Give me a second. I gotta get a lunch order going. All right, so what's next? What is next? Okay, so we have a somewhat functional thing. We're able to add skips as well. That's nice. I think if I refresh, maybe I thought I made, no, I didn't make end date required. I made start and end time required. So what should happen here is that I can start inputting things. If I click save, there we go. Form is not valid. Good. Okay, let's fill one of these out with things. I think let's make this a little nicer for me. So let's do some default values as well. At least for interval. Default value is 1. Do we want to say this doesn't reoccur? I guess I would just have start date and end date be the same. Something along those lines if I wanted to do that. There is a default value. It'll be weekly. Initial value. No, that doesn't exist. It should be default value. That's what we use here. I don't think there's a reasonable default for the recurrence days. Skips is fine. Do something nice here and have the default value of start date be today. guess if I always have to have a recurrence, then I want to also make some validation happen here. So if I have validate required here, does that mean that if I remove these items? Yeah. Okay, great. So I have to select something. Great. Start time and end time are required. Tags are not required. Do I want to make category required? Maybe not. I will actually need to have the list of categories here. This may be something that I'll eventually swap with something that will actually pull the list of categories from Twitch to do. And I may change this so the ID is actual, like the numeric representation of the category, because Twitch has that. Yeah. So there is our create form. Great. So if I go back to the list view, I have some things. If I do a hard refresh, we still, this is one of the reasons I wanted to use this data provider that I set up at the beginning, is that this is just storing inside of, hey look, it's storing inside of the browser. This data. So if I wipe this out, I can go back to just having the default data here. But otherwise, I can have kind of this persistent store to mess around with and add records and delete records and those sorts of things. Can I delete here? Should be able to delete. There it goes. And so now this value should have been updated. Yeah, there you go. Now there's only one object in there. All right, cool. So this is not a great list view. There's way too much information. I don't need this. We are going to make some alternate list views as well, but let's start by making a list view that we can then build on top of. So I'm going to create a new file. This is going to be stream plans list.tsx. And we'll also go to the React admin docs and look at the documentation for making a list view. Introduction. Yeah, it does a lot of work for us. You could build your own list view that plugs into the components, but we're not going to do that. So here's an example that uses data grid. Are they doing, this is an interesting take. So it looks what they're doing is they're going from like a hand-built version and they're incrementally replacing features with things that are provided by React admin. Of course, what we're doing right now is we're using list guesser, which we can just pass that component in and it just auto works. But here is a typical React admin list view. So we can define filters and we can provide a data grid over our fields, and we just use the list component from React admin to wrap it. So we can start with that. And think about what we might want to have in terms of filters here. So this is going to be, rewrite this a different way. Function, stream plan. Oh, nope. So close. Not make the same mistake of last time of not having that return there. There we go. Okay, so Missing key property for this element in iterable. That's interesting. Okay, so we don't want this. Is there any kind of filtering we do want to be able to do? Some kind of autocomplete input on tags, maybe? Or on recurrence days? Or something? Maybe at some point. For now, I'm just going to take it out. And we don't need that text input. So a super simple thing. Of course, I don't care about seeing the ID. That's just going to be kind of an eternal thing. We'll have a name, and probably something like start time and recurrence days. Now, something that occurs to me thinking about this, I probably want to create a custom field for recurrences that, like, I would make the source just be recurrence, and it would use this information to render more details. And especially if I was actually if I was going to have different types and different intervals, that would be super important. But for now, this will be fine. So this will be a text field. This will be a time field. That might be a thing. And this is going to be something else. So can we import time field? Is that a thing? Time field. I don't know. Let's look at the docs. So there's a list of fields that are available. We have a chip field. That's what this is going to be, a chip field. And yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a time field. That's fine. Field value, URL field, translatable, text, select, rich text, reference, number, function, file. So function field is really nice because you can do some special rendering logic to derive the value from source. Instead of making a custom field, you can just use function field. So that's maybe a thing you could do, is like it could be yeah, something. Anyway, let's just do a text field for start time. There's no time field. And then what we're going to do is we're going to replace list_guessr with stream plans list, which we will need to import. Okay. So, good. So one thing I typically will do is I'll create an index.tsx or an index.ts in the folder for each kind of resource. And I'll import the individual things and then re-export them as just like create and list, so that we don't have to have a bunch of separate imports like this. But it's fine for now. That's a future problem. Okay, so now we have a new list view, which I will acknowledge that the keyboard cam is kind of blocking slightly. There you go. So you have start time, 0830, recurrence day is Sunday, coding on Sundays, and we can create and we can list. All right, so that's something. Okay, let's do more. Let's have, so we have create. How about edit? I think that's the main other kind of view that we wanted. If I go back to the workflowy, list, edit, create. Okay, Okay, so let's start top down. Stream plans edit. Edit. Like, it just likes changing what it's going to give me at the last second. Right, I see it, I hit tab, and in that fraction of a second, it changes what it's going to give me. Great. All right, so TSX. And we don't need any of that. We don't need any of that. That's all from before. And is edit any different from create? Not necessarily. So if I start with this and I just replace create with edit, not there though, there and there and there and there. Okay. And then here, it'll be there. Stream plans edit. Stream plans edit. Okay. PR export. Okay, good. So let's change this. We'll add edit. Let me reopen that file. Why doesn't it think it can find this? Stream plans edit.tsx. I don't know. Hey, Jake Jardashian. Welcome. Thanks for the resub.
Jake_Jardashian just subscribed for 9 months.
8 month streak, 9 months total. Another Twitch baby. Alright, so does edit work? How are you doing, Jake? So can I edit this by clicking on it? Yes. I'm doing okay. How are you? I'm doing well. Doing well. All right, and we have just doing some Sunday house cleaning and lurking. Yes, I should do some cleaning as well. I will have to do some of that once my vacation time starts. Why isn't this populated? Why aren't the tags populated? Interesting. I'm guessing tags are not populated because the tags that are on this are... Oh, right. Right. So, let's see. The category's right, but tags are not. So... Okay, so let's look at the docs on autocomplete array input. Again. Stateless component, so it only allows to filter the list of choices, not to extend it. If you need to populate the list of choices based on the results of a fetch call, yeah, I don't need to do that. I do want the list of choices to show up based on the values that are already in there. Should render suggestions, session limit, translate choice. Yeah. So I wonder. Okay. How's this gonna work? Is this going to work? I want it to have the tags that are already in the record, right? So the things that are in the tags field show up. But I think if they're not in choices, they won't. And that is not what I want. Value. If you want to populate the choices attribute with a list of related records, there's not a list of related records. Like we don't have like a table of tags or anything like that. I don't want to have that kind of. I want this to be free form, but I want the data to be structured. Let's see. When working with a field that contains an array of objects, use parse and format to turn the value into an array of scaled values. Okay, we're not in that situation. Using custom element for options. Creating new choices. We've already handled that. Don't need to fetch it from another resource. It's just the list of things that are already in there. Okay. Choices can be an array of values. Interesting. That has some implications then for how I'm doing things here, right? Because this could just be a string array. Let's test this. And then when we're pushing, we just need a push filter. What is this on create type? Do we actually have to return? No, we don't have to return anything. I wonder, does this work? So if I create a new record, I go to tags and I type test. Okay, it doesn't add it though. Well, it doesn't immediately add it to the list of tags. What happens if I return filter? It also doesn't add it. Okay, so this needs to be structured to be like ID filter value filter. Okay, so that works. Does that help me in any way? I don't think so. Because I mean I'm still gonna take this bit. So you may be thinking, like, why can't I just grab the tags from the record? But at this point in kind of the render hierarchy, like we're not even in the form yet. We don't have the record. I think maybe we might be able to get the record. No. I don't think that's available outside of the context of like this edit. Right. So I was updating this stuff that I copied and pasted to match the stuff we edited over there. Okay, so this is not great. Let me go back to the edit view. We figured this out. Alright, so we can do that. We can create tags, but I can't see any of the existing tags. And this record does have existing tags. So is there a way to make this work? Or do we need to use some other input? Like it's not a reference. Search, select, text input. See, at least with array input, select a array input renders a drop down list of choices. Checkbox. I mean, this is the most appropriate of the things. Unfortunately, it seems that it restricts what it renders to things that are in the choices array. Form value for the source must be an array of the selected values. The IDs, in other words. In this case, the IDs and names are the same. And choices is an object. It's not like an optional thing where it could actually be a function that we could calculate. That's a problem. Second. Stuff is happening out in the world. Okay. Well, I will be back in just a second. I'm just going to step away briefly and I'll be right back. Okay. I'm back. And let's see. Can we figure this out in like 3 minutes or less? I may have to dig into this a little bit more. I think, hold on, there is like, so what are the options here? So one option would be to make a custom input. There used to be a wrapper thing to be able to get at the value of the field. Form iterator. Seeing. I forget what it was called. It may not exist anymore. It's been many versions. Well, let's talk about next steps. So, yeah, we need to figure out how to. Let me put a to-do here. Either way, not to add tags, but to show existing tags. Okay, so that's an outstanding thing we need to do here. And then for the list view, like right now, we just have a data grid that shows some information. But that is an aspect of what I want to do here, but I want to do more. Specifically, going back to the agenda, we want to have a view that shows either the current week or the current month in like a calendar layout that shows the recurrences of the streams, right? So if we were looking at a month view, and let's go back to the UI here, right? So like this thing, coding on Sundays, this is scheduled to recur. Oh, here's another thing where this isn't populating recurrence days. Why is that not populating? Huh. Existing values not showing up. Well, that's a bug. But anyway, so like this is recurring weekly. It should be recurring on Sundays. You know, it has some skipped days maybe, right? So if we were going to look at a calendar view of the month of December, then and I don't plan, like this is all just dummy data, right? This doesn't represent my actual plans for things. But if I had those things and we had like a month view, it would show like, oh, on this day, on this Sunday, there isn't a stream there, or there is a stream there, and it might show start and end time. And if we have like a week view, it would show like it's a calendar. It's a calendar, but it's a calendar that would be integrated with the rest of the Glowing Telegram software, right? So that's the goal, and we're gonna pick this up next stream. I hope by then I'll have figured out what I'm even doing. I may make some custom components here and that sort of thing if I have time between now and next Sunday. But for now, let's go find someone to raid because my lunch is getting cold and I want to eat that.